The former voice of the Dallas Cowboys, he called Super Bowl 13. His famous call on Jackie Smith's drop ball is known throughout the sports realm. He also called the 1992 Regionals when Leitner hit that 17-footer over Jamal Mashburn. He also covers golf with Tiger Woods' dramatic shot in the 2005 Masters. Verne Lundquist, how you doing, Vern?
I'm doing fine, guys. How are you?
Wonderful. It's a little warm here. How is it there?
We're going to break 75 here in an hour.
Oh, man, that's horrible, isn't it? You know?
It's a good reason to live in Steamboat Springs, Colorado.
There's something about Colorado that just appeals to people, isn't it?
Yeah, and, I'll turn into one-man public relations chamber of commerce here, but the summers are really spectacular.
Not like St. Louis or Chicago where it's 90 and humid all the time.
Well, and I came from Dallas, so I do know heat.
Yeah, but that they would always tell you. I worked in Fort Worth for a couple of years, and they would tell you it's a dry heat.
Of course.
And I'm going, yeah, but I can't get on to the tennis court and play without collapsing until 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Now, my wife and I have lived here in Colorado for 27 years, and it's a period like this. And I do know, I mean, we're not without knowledge that a lot of the country is suffering right now, but we're blessed. We're blessed here, and it stays in the 70s.
Yesterday, there was some news that Tiger Woods fired his caddy, Steve Williams. What do you think about that?
Wow. I was shocked. Although I just saw an interview this morning that ESPN had on. I don't know when it was conducted or where, but I was a little surprised to hear Steve Williams say that when Tiger came back from his self-imposed hiatus, that Steve told him, "You got to earn my trust back." So maybe even from the minute the accident happened and we began to learn a lot more than any of us thought we would ever know about Tiger Woods, maybe from the get-go that relationship was strained. I didn't think so. I thought it was so strong that almost nothing could break the bond. So I'm among those who's surprised. It's yet another layer being peeled away from Tiger Woods' life.
Yeah. Well, maybe Williams thought that bond was strong enough that he could speak honestly to Tiger and say, hey, you've got to get my trust back and things like that. And apparently that was not the case, or it certainly didn't seem to go over well with Tiger.
No. And, I mean, none of us know. I'm pretty close to Ian Baker Finch, who's one of our regular broadcasters in golf at CBS, and I didn't know this until we had dinner last summer. The two couples, my wife and his wife Jenny, and Ian and I, and we got to talking about this whole topic. And I suggested that there was no way that Steve Williams didn't know about Tiger's activities away from the golf course. And Ian Baker Finch said, I beg to differ. He said, I don't think he did know. He would not have condoned it. And it was surprising to me. And it gave me a new take on Steve Williams. And Ian Baker said Steve Williams worked for Ian Baker Finch for 5 years. That's where the information comes from. And it was a take on Steve that I hadn't expected to learn.
Here's the thing. They said that Steve Williams' wife and Tiger Woods' ex-wife were good friends. And I think maybe the wife basically stepped in and basically, like Steve Williams' wife said, you know what, I don't want you to caddy for Tiger Woods anymore. I want you to tell Tiger, you know what you did to this woman was terrible.
Yeah, I can see that. I didn't know that part of it, that Steve's wife and Elin were that close. But I can certainly envision a scenario where that happens. I just, I thought they were inseparable. I truly, truly did. Because Steve never, to my knowledge, he was a guardian of the palace, and he could be rigid with fans at golf courses during tournaments. And I always thought he was the keeper of the keys. And that led for me to believe, I refused to believe that there wasn't part of the entourage who not only enabled Tiger Woods, but if they weren't enablers, they knew what was going on. He has a very small entourage that's around him, and I just thought that was part of the loyalty. And I'm beginning to understand now that in the case of his caddy, I was incorrect.
Switching gears, it appears that there will be NFL this season. Was there any doubt in your mind?
Not really, but then I lived through 82 and 87, and even beyond that, I go back, when there was a strike in the early 70s. I haven't been on the internet for a while. Is there any fresh news as of right now?
No, they're just waiting. The owners were supposed to vote this morning, but the players still haven't voted.
Yeah, but I don't think there's any doubt that it's going to get done. And as long ago as early May, we were back in New York for a CBS meeting, and obviously the networks have millions and almost billions involved in this. So I'm assuming that our network executives at CBS and those at Fox and NBC and ABC/ESPN or the other way, I'm assuming that they're privy to information that most of us don't have. And Sean McManus, our president, stood up at this meeting in early May and said, I truly believe they'll get the thing worked out. So I think we've thought all along that there may be brinksmanship involved, but at the end they'd get it done.
Yeah, I mean, bottom line is it's your typical labor negotiation. It just happens to be played out on a much grander scale, and it tends to impact millions more than, at a newspaper or someplace else like that.
Yeah, and there's so much at stake, and it is such a large stage. And without question, pro football has become America's game. It did, though. It accomplished that quite some time ago, I think. So the investment emotionally as well as financially for a lot of Americans was very strong. And I don't know anything about the negotiations other than that I have a perception that for one of the few times that we tend to stereotype the athletes as these rich self-effacing, not self-effacing, the obvious contrast to that. These guys who are self-aggrandizing. And I think in the negotiations that fans have leaned to an appreciation of the players' side more so than the owners. I don't get a sense that the owners have come out of this thing with their reputations enhanced.
Why do you think the fans are supporting the players this time?
Well, it begins, I believe, with the idea that the ownership, what was it, a $9 billion profit, and they wanted $8 billion back on a contract that had already been negotiated. And I thought, well, wait a minute. And I just feel, and there's no way to prove this, obviously, I just feel that there's a growing perception that the NFL ownership has made alliances with cities and have gone to the taxpayers and built these monuments to themselves and left the taxpayer holding it. And at what point, and I think that, I don't think it had anything to do with what we hope will be the end result that they'll play. But it's just a feeling I've got that for one of the few times, the general American public sided with the players rather than the bosses.
What do you think of Jerry Jones's monument to himself down there in Texas?
I've never seen it. I do college football now. They call it Jerry World. And of course, when I say convincing the taxpayers to underwrite the project, I'm thinking about him. The mayor at the time that this whole project was conceived, the mayor of Dallas, Laura Miller, insisted that they weren't going to go, and they were not going to support it to the degree that he insisted, and he got the city of Arlington to go along. And so you've got a $1.1 billion stadium. I guess it's the best in the country, maybe in the world. But I just think the whole process is a little excessive. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
What's your favorite sport to cover?
I don't have one. I really don't. And I've been lucky to do a lot of them. I think people would would probably not understand this, but I enjoyed doing figure skating in the Olympics in a degree equal to the NCAA basketball tournament. The 3 Olympics I got to do with Scott Hamilton in a sport that not everybody accepts is one of the great memories I'll have in my life. Now, I love doing college football. I did the NFL forever and ever, and most notably, I think, in Dallas. But I did it with CBS as well. And I love doing basketball. The great thing, I think, about the life I've been privileged to live is that the seasons change. And I get to go directly now. I've been off for a while. And Nancy, my wife, and I use this time to travel. I got in touch with my roots, literally. We spent a month in Norway, and I'm half Norwegian and half Scandinavian, and half Swedish. And we were on a cruise ship, and I was lecturing on the ship. Well, here we are in Norway, so it was time to talk about Tanya and Nancy, and great fun to bring back all those memories of the '94 Olympics. But so that's why I mentioned the figure skating. It's very fresh in my mind. But now I go back to work August 1st, and my first assignment for CBS is the PGA Championship. Well, that's a pretty neat thing, that I get to go to Atlanta and be a part of the broadcast. And then I look forward to the SEC, and our college football coverage has been very well received. And I'm working with Gary Danielson, who is absolutely one of the best in the country. So that's a long-winded way. I love doing track and field. We don't get to do that often, but I've done a lot of it. And I love the challenge of track and field. I think it's as difficult a sport for a broadcaster to call as any.
Now, you're famous when they mention you on Saturday Night Live. Who do you think did a better impression of you, Phil Hartman or Darrell Hammond? I'm not going to. I got to promise you this. I've never seen the Darrell. Who am I thinking?
Hammond.
Will Ferrell and
Darrell Hammond. Darrell Hammond.
Darrell Hammond. I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm having a senior moment. The Phil Hartman thing I've seen a ton of times. And they actually did 2 of them. They did one in '92 when Dana Carvey played Scott Hamilton. And then they did one in '94. Hartman was me both times. And David Spade played Scott. And Nancy Kerrigan actually was in the skit. And Chris Farley was the skater. I think the best one, and I've not seen the Darrell Hammond, Will Ferrell one. I've never seen it. I know it's out there somewhere.
You got to go on YouTube.
Can you get it on YouTube?
You can get everything on YouTube.
Okay. I think I will. Maybe this afternoon. But Hartman, I swear to God, we do a bit of a clip in these speeches on board the ship. And in introducing it, I said, there's a lot to parody in figure skating coverage, and I understand that. I get it. So if you're going to be involved in covering a sport like that, you'd better be prepared to have people make fun of you. And Hartman, I thought, just nailed it. I mean, the stories about the mother who took her son 130 miles round trip 7 days a week, on and on and on. I thought he was terrific.
Okay. Once upon a time, you covered the Dallas Tornadoes, and for those in the audience who don't know what that is, that was a professional soccer team. It was Kyle Rote and Jr. and all this stuff, and soccer was going to be the sport of the 70s. And we're coming off the Women's World Cup, and some people out there are enthused again. Is soccer, male or female, ever going to make it in America?
I still have real doubts. And I watched the Women's World Cup game against Japan from start to finish, and I thought it was a brilliant game. I know you guys have discussed this. The Americans just suffered a ton of lost opportunities. I first covered soccer with the Dallas Tornado just as a local news reporter for a television station in 1968 when Lamar Hunt started the North American Soccer League. And I can remember the mantra then was, all these kids play it, and when they grow up, they're going to become soccer fans if they can't play the game themselves. Well, that was 45 years ago, 43 years ago. And those kids grew up, of course, and began watching football. And so soccer struggled in the mid-'70s. In the late 70s, I don't go on a rant here, but and I loved the sport. I went to the 70 World Cup in Mexico. I went to the 74 World Cup in Germany and the 78 World Cup in Argentina. I got to go to all three of them. And then in 79 at ABC, this is when Giorgio Canaglia and Beckenbauer and Johan Cruyff and all these great, great players from the 70s came and were a part of the North American Soccer League. And I was at ABC at the time, we picked it up, and I was a part of the coverage for 2 years. And we get 70,000 people at a game at Giant Stadium because you had Pele playing, for crying out loud, and Beckenbauer. But we'd get television ratings in a 3 television channel universe that would vary between 2 and 2.2. I mean, we couldn't draw an audience. And I know that it's more of a niche sport now, but I don't believe it's ever going to become the great American passion. I don't think it'll ever rival. It will never have a place in America equal to that which it has in South America and Europe.
Now, a while back you said football is the national pastime. I won't dispute that. At the basis of that popularity, gambling an important component, do you think?
I'd be naive if I said no. I'm not a gambler, never have been, don't care about it, don't know the lines, never consult them, and I'm not setting myself up as some kind of a purist. I know that there's an attraction for those who place money on a game. And I think that's a big part of it. I don't deny that at all. I also think that it's the ideal game for television, just in the way the game is laid out, the field, perfect. I mean, so does a basketball court. I get that, but the way the field is laid out, the rhythm of the game is such that there's action, there's a stop, there's a time for replay, so you can enhance it with all these techniques that television is capable of doing, sometimes in such an obnoxious manner that you just want to scream and throw bricks at the set. But I think television has taken this sport, and the marriage between television and football is something that has increased its popularity. But when you raise the issue of gambling, I would say yes, I think it's a big part of it. And to deny that, I think, is just to be Alice in Wonderland.
Who gave you the nickname the Golden Throat?
My God, you've done some research. I'll tell you where it started. Wow, I hadn't thought about this in forever. Blackie Sherrod has been retired now, but Blackie Sherrod, when he was in his prime, Dan Jenkins went to work for Blackie in the late 50s, early 60s. And Blackie was equal, I swear to this is true, equal to Jim Murray in Los Angeles, equal to Red Smith in his prime in New York. Blackie Sherrod was as good as any sports writer in the country for a period of about 35 years. And he looked down his nose he called them Goldie Throats. And those of us who worked in television. And when I moved to Dallas, where he was at the time the sports columnist for the Dallas Times-Herald, I wanted nothing more than to earn his approval as anything but a Goldie Throat. And so he once stretched it out in a very nice way, said, "Okay, I'll give him this. He's not a Goldie Throat; he's a Golden Throat." Okay. So
scatter shooting while wondering whatever happened to Verne Lundquist. Wasn't that the way he would start? Oh, the first part was how he would start off his Sunday columns, if memory serves.
Yeah, that's right.